Hi, welcome to this lab. In this lab, I'm going to show you how to create Azure Virtual Machine using Azure PowerShell commandlets. There are a number of ways you can create Azure Virtual Machine using Azure PowerShell. You can develop the script or you can execute the commandlets one by one in order to create virtual machine. But in this case, I'm going to execute the commandlets one by one. I think it's a better way for you to understand what commandlets that you need to use in order to create virtual machine. I already prepared a series of commandlets that we need to execute. Let me take you through them, and after that we will be using Azure Cloud Shell in order to execute those commandlets to create Azure Virtual Machine. So let me take you through the commandlets now. The first thing you need to do when you are using Azure PowerShell is to set the context to a subscription. So that is the first statement you can see here. That commandlet statement, once you execute, it will set the context of this particular session to a particular subscription. So when you are executing the subsequent commandlets, any resources that getting created by the execution of those commandlets will get created in that particular subscription. And the second thing I will do is to create a resource group into which we are creating this virtual machine. And in the subsequent commandlets, I'm creating the resources required for creation of that virtual machine. For example, we need to deploy that virtual machine into a virtual network. For that purpose, I am creating a subnet here, and then I'm creating a virtual network with that subnet, and also I'm creating a public IP address and also a network interface card here. And also we need to associate a network security group with that particular subnet that we created earlier. Also, you can associate that with the network interface card also. But you can see here, I'm preparing first of all a rule, and I'm creating a NSG, and I'm associating that particular rule that I created earlier to this particular NSG. And finally, I'm associating this network security group with the subnet. After creation of all these things, if you come down here, I started creating virtual machine. For that purpose, the first thing I will do here is to get the credentials that I will use for this virtual machine. This is the OS credentials of that virtual machine, by the way. And the next thing is I'm going to execute series of commandlets in order to set different configuration settings. For example, I'm setting the size here, I'm setting the operating system here, and also I'm setting the image here for that particular virtual machine, and also I'm specifying the disk and disk size also. And finally, I'm associating the network interface card that I have created earlier to this particular virtual machine. And finally, I'm creating the virtual machine. So these are all the series of commandlets that you need to execute in order to create virtual machine. By the way, you can write a shell script also for this, but let me execute these commandlets one by one and show it to you. So let's go back to the start and let's go back to Azure portal. If you have never used Cloud Shell, you need to click on here and wait for 5 minutes. Then you will get this screen. Basically, it's a way to execute PowerShell commandlets within cloud itself. You don't need to worry about installing Azure PowerShell on your machine. So let's click on PowerShell Windows and click on storage. Azure Cloud Shell requires an Azure file storage to persist the files. So we have to create a storage account. So let's click on storage. I know this error will come. Just click on create storage again. I'm not sure why this error is coming at this moment of time. I haven't yet fully investigated where the problem is, but just click on it again and it will succeed. There you go. As I said, if you click on it again, it will work. I don't know. It is going to take some time in order to initialize the Cloud Shell. So I'm going to pause this video for some time and come back once it is successfully initialized. Now our Azure Cloud Shell is ready for executing commandlets. So let's go back to the Word document. And the next thing we need to do is to set the subscription. So let me copy this. And paste it. That will set the subscription to the right subscription where I want to create this virtual machine. You might have a different subscription ID. So change it and use your subscription ID when you are executing this commandlet. So the next thing we need to do is to create a resource group. That's it. We have created a resource group. You can refresh it here if you want to see. Here you can see the Azure VM, that is the resource group that got created. And when we initialize a Cloud Shell, automatically a default resource group will get created and also a default storage account will get created. So let's come back, go to Azure VM. I just want to show you whenever I execute a commandlet, I just want to show you the resource that got created. Hence I went into the resource group. So let's go back again. And then now we are creating subnet here. We are not creating the resource as such. We are creating a config now. And the next thing is virtual network. In this case, we are creating a virtual network resource. That's it. Our virtual network got created. If you want to verify it, just refresh it here. And you can see here virtual network got created. And the next thing is public IP address that we need to create. So let's take this commandlet. If you want to investigate more about these commandlets, I have provided a link in the resource section of this lecture. Go through it and it contains all the information about different commandlets that you can use while creating virtual machine or also while creating any different resources. Now our public IP address has been successfully created. Let's verify it again. You can see here the public IP address that got created. And the next thing is network interface card. So let's create that one also. Now let's refresh it again to make sure it got created. You can see here. Let's go back and let's create NSG rule. And we will associate that NSG rule by creating a network security group. That's it, we have done it. And the next thing is apply the network security group to a subnet in the virtual network that we created earlier. That's it, it's succeeded. And we need to update it. That's it, all done. If you want to verify all these resources and the associated configuration, you can go into here and then verify it while you're executing these commandlets. But I'm sure everything will be okay, so I'm not going to go and check it now. Now the next thing we need to do is to create virtual machine. Before we create virtual machine, we need to set all the configuration settings. So first of all, we need to take the credentials. It will ask me for credentials. And the next thing is we need to set the size of the virtual machine. And also operating system. By the way, I can type all these commands also, but there is no point in wasting your time by watching me typing all these commandlets. So that's the reason I'm just copy pasting. It saves your time. And the next thing I'm doing is to setting the image. And then the disk configuration. And the next thing is setting the network interface so that we will connect this virtual machine to a particular virtual network that we created earlier, and finally create the virtual machine. As you can see, I'm specifying the location and resource group when I'm creating this virtual machine here. Azure VM and location is North Europe. And this virtual machine creation is going to take some time. So I'm going to pause this video and come back once the virtual machine has been successfully created. Now our virtual machine has been successfully deployed. If you want to verify it, then refresh it here. And then come down here. We should have OS disk got installed. And then come down here. Here is the virtual machine. Click on it. And then go to networking. You should be able to see the network that we have created. Here you go. My VNet and default subnet, and this is a my NIC, which is the network interface card that we created. and the public IP address that we created. So this is how you can create your virtual machine using Azure PowerShell commandlets.